gonna put that in the bloopers. Hey, welcome to my channel. I'm Erica Bonavita, realist painter, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about a sketchbook practice, how to have your own sketchbook practice that is daily, some ways for improvement, and just to kind of talk about the process a little bit. Let me preface this video a little bit by saying that I am not somebody who draws. I don't draw often, or at least I didn't, and I never really enjoyed it up until here recently. So I just completed my first sketchbook, I think ever. I mean, I'm talking about I've never in my whole life completed a sketchbook. I'm 38 and this is the first time that I have actually managed that. And this was a real challenge for me because I didn't enjoy drawing. I've been a painter forever and ever. I did take a lot of drawing classes in college and my drawing skills developed some there where I was okay. I wouldn't say exceptional by any means, but it just wasn't ever anything that I liked doing. And here recently I took up a challenge to do Birdtober, which is where I was drawing or painting a different bird of every day of October. And that really helped me kind of get back into a sketchbook practice. And so I've had this sketchbook since 2019. So that's 6 years that it took me to fill up this little bitty sketchbook. But I wanted to talk about some of the things that enabled me to actually complete this for the first time in my life and some of the things that I learned from that. One of the main takeaways from having a sketchbook practice is that I realized that you do not need to have a perfect sketchbook and you don't even need to have a pretty sketchbook. The most important thing is that you actually get in there and you sketch. So this could be, 5 minutes where you're just trying to get some line work down, or it could be hours where you're trying to get a really, really refined drawing. I personally don't have any need for a really refined drawing most of the time, but as it became easier by doing it daily, I did get to a point where I actually did want to spend a little bit more time working on the individual drawings. So, I mean, we can kind of do like a little sketchbook tour. I'll throw some different images in there of some of my favorite drawings. I also used this as like a preliminary option for later paintings. So these have kind of both since turned into full-fledged painting. It also was just like rough. I allowed myself, oh my God, I'm not filming with any audio. Oh no, hold on. Not me completely forgetting to film with really good audio instead of just what the camera has. So I will set that up.
So on the note of like perfection is kind of the enemy here. I know that we see a lot of sketchbooks that creatives will put online that give you a little sketchbook tour, and they are incredible. They're all good. There's no bad drawings in there. They're all really fleshed out. It's almost like a portfolio. And I love those and I love watching them as well. But I do think that it kind of makes you feel like that's what your sketchbook has to look like. And that's not the case. You can have a lot of stuff in there that is unfinished. You could have things in there that you're not proud of. It doesn't have to be for anybody else's eyes. This is actually just for you. And if you wanted to show some of it, that's great. But if you don't, like it can be very private and personal, and it doesn't have to have all of that pressure. So that's one of the takeaways that I want people to have whenever they start a sketchbook practice. Again, time. You do not have to dedicate more than a few minutes. I think that it's more important that you just pick up the pen or pencil and actually make something than it is to feel like, oh, well, I have to draw for 30 minutes today or else it's not good enough. Like, you have to lower some of the barriers and just start to do stuff. So what I've started to do personally is incorporate a little bit of a journal with a sketch. So I'm wanting to do maybe a daily like visual journal where I draw something from that day, my cup of coffee, or if I had a fire, some of the farm animals, what have you. But that kind of having somewhere where you're writing things and you're putting in notes visually, you can doodle, so whatever you want to do, that can kind of help. When it does come to having an actual sketchbook practice, some of the barriers are you just don't know what to draw. So we kind of talked about drawing just things from your everyday life. But if you're still kind of stuck, it seems like, you can be sitting in a room and there's no inspiration in the room whatsoever. There's nothing in there you want to draw. There's a couple of different things that I do as a workaround for that. One, I participated in Birdtober this year, so every day I knew I was going to be drawing a bird, so that kind of took a little bit of the mental fatigue out of it. Another beautiful option for that is Inktober. This is, again, another October challenge, but you can look up past Inktobers and just kind of pick and choose what you want from that. And that's 31 days where somebody's giving you a prompt and you draw from that, and you can kind of use your creativity. They might say, you know, spooky, and you could draw a ghost or you could draw a scary tree or whatever, but you get to kind of choose. It leaves it a little bit more open-ended, but there's another option that I kind of stumbled upon, and it's a website. It was called, what did I see? Oh, the Pigeon Letters. And this was kind of cool. It was like a random generator. You just push the button and there were several different categories, like theme and mood, colors. So you can kind of pick and choose from that what you would want to use, but it helps you get a little bit out of that creative rut and of not knowing what to draw. And that lowers some of those barriers so you can get into an everyday practice of drawing. And kind of circling back to this idea of needing to not have your art practice be so perfect or have so many expectations on it. There's also something that I've been kind of doing a deep dive into, and that is therapeutic art. Therapeutic art is different than art therapy in that art therapy is an art therapist has a degree in psychology and has studied art therapy methods. So it's a little bit more official. But therapeutic art is where you're just making art to kind of give your brain a break and something where it's just for fun. And the emphasis on a lot of therapeutic art is mark making, just kind of repetitive motions. And I think this is really great. One of my favorite ways, at least with drawing, is I like to just do a whole bunch of lines on the paper in different patterns. Not a visual representation of anything necessarily. It's just squiggles and dots and circles, because just making those repetitive movements and not having to think about them. You're like, oh, I'm going to fill a whole page with circles. You don't have to think about it. You just make it. I find that really helps my brain to kind of calm down. And a lot of people are making art for that reason, to calm down. And it shouldn't feel like something that you don't want to do. And I have a lot of pages that are kind of similar themes. This one right here is one of my favorite exercises. You just take a pen, you start at one point on the paper, and you do a continuous line squiggling all over. And then inside of any of the intersections, you can choose to color them in, do different colors. You can do colored pencils, anything you want to do with it. But again, it's that same idea that you are releasing your brain from having to think, and it just gives you some time to like chill. Another thing that you can do with your sketchbook is be experimental. Play with different mediums. In my sketchbook, I don't do dedicated anything. It's not just one medium. I love to do charcoal, graphite. I've been putting acrylic paintings in my sketchbooks, which is very strange for me because I only paint in oils otherwise. But in the sketchbook, I love that it dries fast and it doesn't penetrate the paper too deeply. I'll try oil pastels, pastel pencils, colored pencils, markers, anything anything that you have access to is going to be a good choice for putting in your sketchbook, as long as it's something you want to do and play with. I think that one of the best ways to kind of get out of your head and just start making stuff is to use less precious materials. So if you have Crayola crayons, or you have some markers, like kids' supplies, I'm talking like the cheapest of the cheap, the little $2 watercolors, whatever you have that you don't feel like is precious, you feel like it could be trash, it's not even a big deal. Those are going to get you into the sketchbook where you're not so worried. Like, well, this is like a really nice art supply and I don't want to use it up if it's not very good. That's what the other materials are for. So I buy a lot of like really basic, really low grade stuff to play with. And that really helps free me up a little bit. And one of the last things that I really wanted to talk about is in terms of your actual sketchbook, the actual material. So I have become slightly addicted, which is weird because I've never been into sketchbooks, but I currently have so many, and they're all kind of serve different purposes, and I'm looking for different things in them. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. One of my new very favorite ones is this little tiny watercolor sketchbook. I love this guy. First of all, it's adorable. Look at it. It's small. I like small. So this one, it's got really nice watercolor paper, and what you're looking for, or why you would use a watercolor paper, is the way that it holds the water. So you don't want to do like a thin sketchbook because it will just bleed through onto other pages. It goes everywhere. It's not the right material. So if you wanted to do watercolor in as a form of sketching, I would recommend you either get a dedicated watercolor, or you could grab a mixed media sketchbook. Both are great. I love the watercolor one to dedicate strictly as a watercolor sketchbook. And this is one of my very favorite things. I'm planning on filling this up probably pretty quick now that Birdtober pressure is off. But I love that it's got that cover and it just feels kind of like classy. So that's one of my favorites. I picked up a new sketchbook today because, again, I'm addicted. This one, what I'm loving, this is a mixed media sketchbook. Again, this is a low quality. I got this at Walmart. This isn't like a super nice fancy artist one. This is just what I was looking for. What I wanted out of this sketchbook was I wanted the ring binding because it's easier to like lay it flat, and it's easier to get to each individual page like that. This one, because it's a mixed media sketchbook, the paper is thicker. So for this one, what I was planning on doing is maybe some watercolors in here, some acrylic paints, heavier bodied things where I want a little bit more oomph to it, oil pastels. I also thought that this would be really nice for some charcoal drawings. And I like the tooth to it, so this will be good for my pastel pencils as well. So, and additionally, I really like the size of this. This is a 5.5 by 8.5. So I like small. So this feels a little bit more intimate, a little bit more doable, and it's, what does it say, 60 pages? So this feels a little less overwhelming to me. This one also is only like 40 pages. So again, not overwhelming. I feel like I could fill this up. On the other hand, I have this big old sketchbook. It's a standard 8.5 by 11.5. And it's got the hardcover, which I really like, and it has the little ribbon so you can keep your space in it. What I am a little terrified of is the fact that it's quite large and it has the most pages ever. It has so many pages, and the paper is thinner, so I can't do any kind of watery materials in here. What I do have it for is, this is my like everyday sketch journal situation. So since it's thinner, I don't feel bad like I'm wasting it by writing in it and just putting in my thoughts, manifestations, affirmations. Just, it's like a really positive thing. And that makes it feel a little less overwhelming to fill it. So I'm going to have some fun with that. And then this little guy right here, I don't even know where I got this. It was like a 3-pack years ago. Again, I've had some of these sketchbooks for 6-7 years. Anywho, this one is brown paper, and I love brown paper. It's toned, so this starts as a middle ground. There's already a value in there, so you can kind of more easily see like lights and darks where you need to move from with that. So I love that. I love the natural color. I have another one in gray. This one I like so much better because the paper has more tooth to it, which means it's a little bit more grippy. You can put materials on there and they kind of catch. So I love this with pastel pencils and charcoals. But it's important to kind of just play around and see. Everybody likes different things. Find you a sketchbook that, one, doesn't feel overwhelming, two, feels like it's going to be able to contain the types of mediums that you like to work with, and just get in there and start making stuff, because it's going to make you feel really good. It's going to feel like a release for your brain. And even if you're like me and you don't like to draw and you don't think that your drawings are very good, it's okay for that to be the case. It's okay for it to just be for you and just be for play, and there does not need to be any pressure. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Hopefully this gets you started on your own sketchbook practice. Let me know if you have any comments or questions or any other video ideas that you'd like to see done in the future. I'll see you on the next one.